This is the video for lesson 8.7, step 3. At this point, you have finished step 2 and you made your curve in Desmos. My example only has 2 lines, but yours should have 5. And I'm only showing you 2 for now because it's an example and I don't want to give it all away. And now that you have that curve, you're going to choose one of these transformations to do to the curve to make a second curve. So for example, you can take your original curve, which is this green one, and reflect it across the y-axis so that your final figure will look like this. Or you can reflect it across the x-axis, so it looks like this one. Or you can do a 180-degree rotation, so it'll look like this. Or if you really want to challenge yourself, you can do all 3 to make a curved diamond like the one on the right. Let's start. I'll show you an example of how to reflect one line across the y-axis, like this one on the left. So let's go back to Desmos. And again, yours will have 5 lines at this point. Mine only has 2 because it's an example. And let's look at this purple line right here. And we want to reflect this purple line across the x-axis. So we have to imagine it first. If this line reflects across the x-axis, it would look like this. If you're following my cursor, right? The line would look like that. So we have to think about, okay, what would the new slope be and what would the new y-intercept be of this reflected line? So we're going to go y is equal to. So the slope, if it's going from here, it's going from -5 up to x of 1, 0. So that's going up 5 units and to the right 1. So it would be a slope of positive 5x. And then I think about what the y-intercept would be. Well, if the y-intercept for the original line was positive 5 and we reflect it across the x-axis to bring it down here, the new y-intercept would be -5. So I'm going to do -5. And now we have our reflected line, and it's the full version of the line. So the last step is to apply the domain. So the domain, I want it to end at the left here. This is an x of 0. And I want it to end right here. That's an x of 1. So I'm going to say set the domain to 0 is less than x, which is less than 1. Just like that. And now I've successfully reflected this line segment across the x-axis, just like that. And I can continue that process for the other 4 lines. Start a new line, figure out, okay, what would the new slope have to be, what would the new y-intercept have to be, and then set the domain. Let's do one more example where we'll reflect across the y-axis instead of the x-axis. So let's delete this. And let's again look at this purple line. If we wanted to reflect it across the y-axis, it would come over to the left like this, and it would look, the line would be like this instead. So going from -1, 0 up to 0, 5, that new slope is going up 5 units and to the right 1, so it's a slope of positive 5x. And the new y-intercept would have to be here, right? The line would come up through there. So the y-intercept would actually be the same, so plus positive 5. And then that's the full line. Let's set the domain. The furthest to the left that we want the graph to go is, we want it to end, this line, we want it to end right here. So that's an x of -1. And on the right, we want it to end up here. That's an x of 0. So I'll do to 0, close curly brackets. And now I have successfully reflected this purple line segment across the y-axis. And then I would continue the same process for the other 4 lines, change slopes, change domains, and so on. When you're done, make sure that you take a screenshot of the equations and the graph. Equations and the graph. Bring it over to your slide, paste it into this very last portion, and then you're done. You should have a total of 10 lines, unless you're doing the challenge, in which case you'll have a total of 20 lines.